are represented, the trial court judges get free representation by the county counsel's office. But at least the county counsel's office is made aware of all these high crimes. The Appellate, the 4th District Court of Appeals of California, is state, and they get free representation by the California Attorney General's office. In other words, the people that should be dealing with crimes against the public are being put in a position, which I think is a conflict of interest, to have these people acting as defense attorneys where they might later be required to prosecute the criminal activity being exposed by a civil suit in this manner. In other words, these judges should have to be providing themselves their own representation, but they're given free representation. So once again, there's little cost to them conducting these frauds, because even if they get, somebody goes this far against them, they get free representation. You know. So anyway, judge comes into the courtroom and he goes, okay, gentlemen, I've read all your papers and I've read your briefs and your motions, and it's the decision of this court to grant these judges judicial immunity, and by the way, and the clerk of the appellate court. And I said, excuse me, Your Honor, but your decision would lend me to believe you have not read my arguments. So he looks at the cover sheet, and the cover sheet lists all these judges that they're being sued for racketeering. And he goes, Mr. Brailer, are you saying that all of these attorneys and all these judges have conspired against you? And I said, Your Honor, I'm saying it's business as usual. He goes, well, I'm granting them judicial immunity. You can go ahead and keep suing, you know, your attorney and her attorney and the plaintiff and all that, but you cannot sue the judges. Well, I really didn't have the money to go on anyways. You know, I got what I came for, how the federal court protects the trial court judges. Now, that was 1991. I forget what year it was, but sometime thereafter, there was a judge or judges who were accused of accepting bribes from attorneys, and these attorneys and these judges were being sued by the United States U.S. Attorney General's office. Maybe it was the no, it would have been the U.S. Attorney General's office, because they're being tried in federal court. Federal crimes. Being as these courts are judicial offices, I think all these crimes are federal crimes. And so anyways, what was I going to say? Oh, this later on, this judge is being charged, and it's going to be held in the federal court, and the entire federal court recuses itself. And they print in the paper that the reason given is those are our associates from across the street. In other words, there's a conflict of interest to having a judge here try a judge there when these are their associates from across the street. Okay? Now, what should have happened in my trial is they should have ruled that, hey, we can't try this matter of all these judges because these are our associates from across the street. So I could probably have this ruling that I can't sue these judges overturned in a heartbeat, or I could if there was any justice going on in these courts. Okay? And that's why I'm going to the public here and not going to bother with these bullshit courts. And they want to charge me with what is it? Oh, so anyway, where was I going with that? So anyways, more recently in the trial court, as a matter of fact, ex-mayor, ex-judge, forget his name, there was an issue brought into that court where the entire Superior Court recused itself. And recusal, and by the way, every time I go to court now, I always ask to have the entire court recused. And whenever a fraud is being conducted against me, because I know they're going to aid and abet it. And instead of putting it in writing in a short brief that I give them, next time this happens, I'm going to be giving them a copy of this. Recusal requires a judge to recuse himself, that is to say, take himself off the case for even an implication of a conflict of interest, so as to, how do they put it, preserve the court's integrity or something. Well, I'm going to tell you something. A, these courts don't have any integrity except among themselves, protecting of the criminal activity, their racketeering. What they're doing is feeding attorneys upon the public, their property, their savings, and most importantly, the easiest to suck dry, their insurance companies. So this film is really about the conflict of interest to having robed public fucking, and by fucking I mean racketeering, attorneys working for courts which have as their policy this protection, this aiding and abetting, from having any say as to whether or not or what level of extortion should be applied to me to induce other citizens to refill the insurance troughs from which they are feeding their public fucking kind. Anyways, when they were trying to judge here for racketeering, they brought in a retired judge. Like that might make a big difference. Well, it might, but I think they still have these same associations, and I don't think there's anything different. What they need to do is bring in now this was a federal court. They might have brought in it'd be interesting to see if the judge they brought in was from outside California. Anyways, some of the things I've done before I did this to discourage judges from engaging in this kind of criminal activity against us was, for instance, when they were trying this judge here, I have these 4-foot by 4-foot placards and sticks, and I would come down here and march around with these placards declaring that the judicial racketeering enterprise, and as much as I could fit on two sides of these placards, explaining what was going on. And one day the attorney who was being accused of bribing these judges comes downstairs, walks out to me, and he says, "Hey, could you use a cup of coffee?" And I said, "Yeah, sure could." He walks across the street, and there's a little coffee shop in this building right here. Gets me a cup of coffee, comes back across the street, gives me a cup of coffee, didn't even get one for himself, didn't get nothing for himself, and went back upstairs. Oh, he stops. I says, "If you didn't bribe him, the other guy would. Am I right?" He says, "You got it exactly on the head, buddy. You know exactly what the hell's going on." I says, "Yeah." And I says, "And you're going to have to act like you're the bad guy, right?" He went, "Yep, that's what this is about. I'm the bad guy." Yeah. Anyways, there you go. There was an attorney here in downtown tried to sue a bunch of judges and attorneys in the estate department here, wherein they steal from the dead and those who might receive from the dead. And he charged them with racketeering, and he tried to sue them, and they gave him the runaround, and I think he just didn't have the sense of humor I had. They put him in a federal penitentiary in Illinois in the mental ward record. So I read all his stuff, and when they finally let him out, I called him up, and spoke to him, and he went, "Well, there were just some things I didn't understand."